Welcome, everybody. Tonight is the 19th of Uber Hut July in Dallas. It's 107 here at 7:40 at night, and it's probably like freezing in Canada. We'll find out in a minute. Anyhow, this is Dallas Person Robotics Group. We'll just go around the table and talk about things related to robots and questions and the like. So I'll stop sharing. We have a queue started off with Doug D, then Pat, then Ray, then I think I heard Michael, and then it's a few people. So Doug, take it away.
So I want to start off with a big shout out to Doug Paradis because he did a lot of work and gave us a nice class on Saturday. It was very informative to me, and I'm real happy about that. Yes, double claps on that. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was, thank God for fuses. This is my little 6-amp fuse that I had in this robot here. I've since replaced a new one there. I wired up my board that I've been showing y'all. All this, I was in a hurry because it wasn't quite working the way I wanted to. It gave power out like it was supposed to. But when I hooked my Raspberry Pi to my Arduino with the serial cable in between, I issued the commands I used to issue when I had those separate little power packs, and nothing happened. So I'm thinking, oh no, what happened? So of course it's mechanical, and I got frustrated. I'm a programmer guy, so I managed to, chill out for a little while, waited and got back to it, plugged it back in again, and of course, in my haste, I plugged it back in wrong. And as soon as I turn on the power, it goes, there goes that fuse. Thank God for fuses. And sorry, Pat, but thank God for Amazon because they got me some new ones the next day. So now I'm back in business working on trying it out again. So this is a new fuse from Amazon. Not priced very much either. They're all in US dollars. I'll quit digging now. But so I'm making progress. I'm working out why my two pieces aren't talking, and hopefully I can get an operational prototype of this thing going, because Don is leaning on me to talk to their group about it. But I'm not going to talk until it's done. I don't want to talk on the intermediate parts.
Yeah. One thing you might want to be careful about, Doug, is you said you're using a serial port from the Arduino to the Raspberry Pi.
Yes, I think the port changed when I plugged it in and out.
Yeah, what I want to say is the Raspberry Pi is a 3.5 volt, 3.3 volt part, and I don't know if the serial ports pins are 5 volt tolerant.
You're talking about the GPIO, and on the Raspberry Pi, it's got the USB to Arduino and to their USB port, and I don't have to worry about voltage on that.
Oh, okay. So you're putting the serial into the USB.
Right.
Okay,
and that's always worked when I had just my little 2 power packs.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
What's that?
That's cool.
Yeah.
I understand.
Unfortunately, I forgot to mention also another change I had to make is, I'm not paying close enough attention to what you say, Doug. You talked about checking out that power, and I checked out my power and made sure that I didn't have too little on the sensors. But the new Pololu part that I got, which by the way blew when the fuse blew, but it was the only piece I hope. It was a 2.5 amp 5 volt step down, and the Raspberry Pi 4 wants 3 volts or 3 amps. So it had that little lightning bolt on there that says, "You're not giving me enough power." So I ordered some more from Pololu, and they should be in a day or two, and then I'll have enough power for that.
Yeah.
And I got some connectors actually. The light's not really good here, but this is the Arduino Mega, and I've always plugged the power in with the little barrel adapter.
Mm-hmm.
And with my new board, I tried using the pins, which is supposed to work and probably did. But since something wasn't working, I bought some barrel adapters, and I can put the power into the barrel adapter, and that'll take that difference out. So
I always do that. I always feed it through the barrel jack.
I wanted to, but I didn't have any adapters, so I just put it in the GPIO pins that are supposed to work.
Yeah, you get a little more protection that way.
Yeah. Especially if you're going to plug things in wrong and get some instant blown fuses.
Yeah.
what I ended up doing, just for FYI, is I took the 18 volts out of the battery and plugged it into the output of the 2.5 amp 5-volt step down, and that did not like it. It blew that immediately. So
Not
that's
sure.
all-
Wait a minute. If you went into the barrel jack,
yeah,
you need to have at least 7 volts.
7.5.
Yeah.
And I would say probably the sweet spot, I think, is right at 9 volts.
yeah, that wasn't the barrel back. This is my power board. These here is the 18 volts in with a wire that goes to the battery, not the one I used. This is the 5-volt 2.5 amp step down. This wire, which I just pulled off, was supposed to go to the Raspberry Pi, and instead I put the 18 volts from the battery into this, which is the output from this, not the input. So blew the crap out of that and blew the fuse. And I don't think anything else further down got blown because it's not connected to anything else. We'll find out when I get my new step down to replace it.
Yeah.
Just sloppy. I had a dangling wire. I didn't know I had two. So I said, oh, look, here's the dangling wire. Let's plug it in. Should have followed to where the wire went to. Sloppy because I'm not used to doing this mechanical stuff. I haven't developed the proper, oh, you better double check this stuff like I do in my software. I'll get there. Thank God for Amazon.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They can send me a new one. Polo Lou, it takes a few more days, but it sent me a new one.
Yep.
Amazon
So,
next day
got-
delivery. Amazon next day delivery takes 3 days in Canada.
Yeah.
Time goes a little different pace, I guess, up there, huh?
Yeah.
It's also not as hot, so I
So,
did.
so just go for same day, right? If you go for same day, you'll get it next day.
Oh, yeah, for about $38 more.
Yike.
Yikes. Okay, so who was after Doug? Okay, hey Pat, go.
Hey, I want to say thank you very much. It was Doug. It was excellent on Saturday. So here's what I've got.
Whoa.
So I've been working on a couple of meetings ago. I don't know, a month ago. I asked about a robotics platform, and I got a lot of good suggestions. But they were all, by the time you get them to Canada, $100 plus platforms. And I decided to chintz out, and I bought a little yellow TT motor, 2-wheel drive with a little caster on the back. So I've been adding, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
I've got a Raspberry Pi on there. I've got an Arduino on there. I got a motor driver.
Yeah.
I've got on the top, so far, I've got a hard drive mounted on there.
Mhm.
I'm still waiting on my next day delivery, my encoder sensors, the optical sensors for the encoder. And we'll put together what we can. I printed a gripper. Where's Murray? 3D printed a gripper.
Right.
And that's where I am so far. I'm about to put it away, and I've got a power supply to add on and get ready for the battery pack on it. And it's going to go sit away till October.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it out of the way and get it going. I've got other things on the go. I've got a Robo Columbus bot to keep working on.
Before you leave that one, why the hard drive? That's a lot of storage for that.
Faster.
It's way faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is more power hungry though too.
Yeah. The one thing I did find, it is more power hungry. I'm going to be powering the Raspberry Pi directly from the GPIO, and so I'll be putting 5 volts and ground to the GPIO to power it, and it will be out of a 10 amp power supply.
Mm.
So I want to make sure it can take whatever it needs out of it. I'm
So
going to
that-
fuse.
That leads
gonna
me
fuse
to a
it.
good question, if you don't mind me interrupting one more time.
Sure.
I had that 2.5 amp power supply and my Pi complained. So I got bigger than a 3. You said you had a 10. And so the mechanical theory is that the Pi won't overload. It'll just take what it needs.
Yeah, the Pi will take what it needs, and the Pi doesn't need like 3.5 amps continuously. It has a super tiny spike of 3.5 amps, and microseconds long. But if you can't provide that power for that time, that's when things go wrong. Bits get scrambled.
Thanks.
So that's the idea with giving it enough power supply to handle the hard drive and the Arduino board on it. The motors are powered separately from the same battery, but from prior to the regulator. So I'll be putting 11.1 volts to the motors, to my little 6-volt TT motors, and then relying on a PID loop to average the voltage down and give me my speed.
They'll run really fast for a short period of time.
That's the whole point. Was I'm always buying $50 motors with encoders, and I decided to chintz out and go the other way and spend, buy some $6 motors. Essentially,
Yeah.
the whole kit from Amazon was $20 Canadian. So that's just the base with the TT motors and the wheels.
That's actually cheaper than the one I use when I do beginner training. The one I'm using beginner trainers now, it used to be $21, and now it's $27. So, yeah, but at $21, you couldn't buy the parts. You know what I mean? If you had something, you were trying to teach somebody and they had nothing but a screwdriver, it was the best deal going. Even if you didn't use, threw parts of it away later. Pat.
Yep.
Are you gonna? What does your Robo Columbus base look like? Are you going with a new one or the
No,
one that you?
With Woody.
Nope.
No, it's not Woody.
No.
No.
I don't know if you can
No.
see that.
Yep.
So that's
Part of
my.
it.
Can you move it over a little bit? It's kind of out of. Okay. So just looking at that, that's not 110. That's what's after 110. That's how big is that?
I have no idea. I think it's a DF robot frame.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's all right. So it's a DF robot frame. Okay.
Yeah, it's a DF robot frame. It's got 4 motors.
Looks like it has independent suspension.
Mm.
It sort of. So they are tied together, but they are.
Okay. Is that a thumper?
That's a thumper. That's what it is.
Okay. All right.
A
So it's a
four-wheel drive
4-wheel thumper. Okay. I got it. All right. Boy, we haven't seen a 4-wheel thumper actually. And, I mean, actually, I don't know why, for one reason or another, people went another way. So I'm real interested in that. That'll be see how that goes. Because, that's not a cheap frame, is it?
That was a couple $100.
Yeah, I want to say, yeah.
I think I paid $230 or $240 Canadian for it.
Wow.
You got
Cool.
5 SRO4s on there?
I've got 5 SRO4s, and I just added an LED ring light on it so that I can get some feedback while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And I've got it's a Polulu clone motor driver on the back, right here,
Mm-hmm.
sitting on top of a custom-made board with an Arduino below it.
You kind of slid out of stream again. Okay. All right.
So, and I've got a battery in the bottom, 11-volt battery in the bottom, and then a couple switches for the CPU, and then a couple switches for the CPU, a couple fuses, motors and power, and that's about it.
Mhm. How hard was it to attach the superstructure to the superstructure, I should say?
I put a foam board, a piece of Sintra foam board, 1/4 inch I had, and I just used some brass standoffs. And because the top of the robot has 1,000,000 holes in it.
Okay, gotcha.
So it,
Pat, I would just a comment about the switching power supplies.
yeah,
If you oversize it too far, then your efficiencies go way down. You want to run a
Yeah.
switching power supply somewhere between 20 and 80%. So
Yeah.
you certainly want to have plenty of meat there, but you don't want the whole half of a cow if you're not going to use it.
yeah, that's.
I don't know what you're drawing there, but 10 amps, like I said, you want to keep it between about 20 and 80%, so that the switching power supply runs efficiently.
Yeah, so running the Arduino, running the another device, which is a secret that's going on there, and then I'm getting ready for the 6-can competition next year,
Okay,
and I'm aiming to beat Scott.
okay.
Hey, ooh, there
Well,
you go.
okay, just for grins here.
The gauntlet is down.
Yeah. Now, Pat, I want to tell you that Scott was sandbagging last time. I went back and looked into the previous records, and he
Yep.
beat his time by at least 5 or 6 seconds the last time he ran.
Oh, I'm looking.
I'm
to-
just letting you know so you don't get, you're going to have to beat him good.
Oh, I am looking for under a minute.
Oh, wow. Okay. Cool.
That's a lofty goal. Good luck.
It
Yeah,
is.
well, yeah, I don't know. That sounds like, I know Canadians aren't used to, to making big statements like that. I don't know. So,
I've got an idea. Well, I'll have to test it out. This is why I'm putting it on the back burner here shortly, and it's going to wait till October.
okay, that's
Did
cool.
you say the gauntlet was thrown down or the trebuchet? I mean,
I'm just razzing him. It's
Canadians have longer minutes.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. It's three times 3, right? Otherwise, a single day is 3 days. So 1 minute is 3 minutes.
Oh, it's metric.
Oh, it's metric. Oh, God.
Multiplied by 1.6 and that's 32.
Okay. Cool.
That was metric minutes. Yeah.
There's 100 seconds in a metric minute, eh?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, that's just something I was working on.
Okay.
Have to
That's
see
great.
how it goes.
It is always fun to do a new bass. I don't know why.
It
It's
is.
but now that you've got all of the fun out of it, now you got the other 80% of getting it to work.
The hard, boring part.
Yeah, the hard boring part.
Well, even my standard motor driver I was using, I've plugged it in and I'm trying to get it to work, and I'm not getting the serial port to work. But that's on two different problems. So one, I've been using Symlinks with for serial upload port on the platform IO.
Mhm.
So it's not dev TTY USB 0. It's dev TTY dash motors, TTY USB dash motors. So it's a Symlink to the other port. And I create that Symlink by looking at the path that the USB port is plugged into. And so I create that way there. I can have 2 identical Arduinos, that'll come up as USB 0 or USB 1. And I can program them on the computer on the board without having to unplug one and figure out what port it is. So I just send it to TTY to USB. But it's not working all of a sudden, so it is working on the wooden monster. You can't see the wooden monster. So it is working on the wooden monster, but it isn't working on the new one. So I don't know what the difference is. Incidentally, I put the Raspberry Pi or Raspbian Bullseye on my Raspberry Pi 4 with my hard drive. And oh my God, it was so slow. It couldn't keep up. Yeah, it would boot. It was fine, but there was just so much lag in everything I did. I put Buster back on it, and it boots in 10 or 15 seconds. It's booted up.
Hmm. Cool. I think the other thing too, I don't think their new image platform that they're using on the newest on Bullseye, I think it's mandatory on Bullseye, but on Buster, I think I can't remember exactly, but you can change back. Otherwise, I think it's called Pi Image or Image Pi instead of the RP camera. They don't seem to be ready for real time ready either. I mean, so I don't know. I think if you're trying to use the camera for OpenCV projects, first of all the libraries and all the code that everybody else has done doesn't work anymore, and it doesn't seem to be a good deal. Anyway.
Yeah. Buster seems to be much better at all of that right now.
Okay.
That's it for me. I've got nothing else.
Okay. So who was next? Was it Mike? Or no, was it Ray? Was it Ray or Mike?
Probably me.
Okay.
Well, I was kind of curious about what everyone was using for GPS modules for the outdoor contest.
I've got a crate full of them that none of them seem to connect and work. So I can read the serial port either through USB or direct serial, but my backyard's wide open to the sky, and I cannot latch onto a satellite for the deck.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I can tell you, okay, in the past, I've used, first of all, I love U-Block GPSs. And I'm using it on mine. I think it's a U-Block M8 Neo. Okay. But I just got one of the last 3 SparkFun boards that were available with the 9, and I think it's just
F9 on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about that is I got the one that has the little
SMA on it, or
little the little plug that for external antenna.
oh yeah, the SMA.
Okay.
Yeah, people seem to like that better than the
And I got
little
a
UFLs.
just a little just a block antenna. And I've been reading up about ground planes and how effective. So this one's probably not the ground plane that I'm going to use. Obviously, it's my wife's pan, but it's supposed to be somewhere between 4 and 6 inches, ideally a circle. And see, this one's magnetic because it's meant to be on a car.
Yeah.
And I can't use a magnetic one if I'm going to have a compass anywhere near it.
Yeah, like a BNO 755.
Yeah, so that's not going to work. So my next project is to tear this sucker apart, take the magnet out, and see if I can solder the antenna to a 6-inch aluminum plant. I was just reading about how to solder aluminum, and they start off with a little silver solder, and you make like a pad with the silver solder, and then you use regular solder on the pad to actually make the connection. Or at least that's what YouTube says. So we'll find out. So now the problem is the reason I've been using the M8 Neo is because that was compatible with my autopilot. Otherwise, it has an external compass actually on the same board. This one doesn't. I don't think it does, at least. No, I don't know, but I don't think it does. I don't think this has a compass on it.
Right.
So
Got
that's going to,
the M8U, and this is the one I was talking about. I don't know, a couple of months ago, that actually has an AHRS model in it. So it actually has the accelerometers, the magnetometers, and the gyro as part of the GPS radio. Now, Ray, you brought up the point that, the spec is mostly for like an automobile, so that, the velocity has to be to a certain point to actually get a compassed heading.
Yeah.
And I still hadn't played with it, so I don't know how practical it is on a robot, an outdoor robot. But the other one I've been using on Belch is this. It's a F9P. It's still a U-blot, which seems to be kind of the market leader in accuracy. This F9P is touted to be 1 centimeter accuracy, but I haven't got the new Belch chassis running well enough to test that. But one thing I did do when I put Belch together was I went to this spherical antenna. I don't know if you can see that, but it's this antenna, and it's actually wound in a circular pattern. Because here in my office, I really struggled to connect to 1 or 2 satellites, if that, in the past. And then, because I had an antenna just like Doug did with the magnet on it, and the omnidirectional, I think they call them. And like I said, I would struggle to connect to 1 or 2 satellites here. But this spherical antenna, and I'm not sure if it's the new GPS or not either, but I mean, I can just bang, I've got half a dozen satellites at least in the same location. So this antenna really been helpful in, the satellite linkage.
yeah, well, that's the thing I noticed about mine, Scott. So I just have it here in my room. And the 9, let me read it so I know what it is. It's a Neo M9N. Okay, so this is not the one that costs a couple $100. This is just $70.
Yeah, that's this F9P. This was it came as a set, so there were 2 of these radios, and it was a couple of $100.
Yeah, you have one that can do RTK, right?
Yeah.
This one isn't an RTK.
Yeah.
Okay. But what it does is it picks up every satellite constellation in the world, and I'm going to tell you, I was amazed. It picked up like 20 something, 30 satellites, and I also watched it. Now, you know how on a normal like GPS, you're doing good, you're wandering around where you were, and then all of a sudden you start going off, way off, and then you come over there, and then you come back. Well, this guy stayed in 2 meters for as long as I was testing it. I couldn't believe how more accurate that it appeared to be. Now, the real run will be when we actually start using them out on our robot, bouncing around and all of that. But it does, having all the constellations does seem to be beneficial.
Yeah. Well, you have the whatever it is, the GNSS ones, and there's
the
a
China,
whole
the
several
Russia
classes of satellites that you can start to link up to, and I think that's where the added resolution comes in at.
Yeah, I think the 8, I want to say it was GPS and the Europeans, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check. I don't think they had the Chinese and the Russian, but I don't know. The 9 does seem to be better than the 8. I guess that's what I'm saying. And if I go that way, it might force me away from my autopilot, and then I'm going to have to do some other stuff. We'll see.
Well, the other thing about these modules, and I mean, it's a carrier board, but it follows an XB format, footprint. So you can basically, that's how they do the RTKs. You stack an XP radio on top of this, and then
Mhm.
the radio link it back to your data source.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Or to the like a base station to a rover.
right.
Yeah.
Or, that's what I was calling a data source. But yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to remember who did this carrier board. This is a simple RTK Lite board that the Arduino Simple people put together.
Oh, really? Okay, so this will be interesting. If Kareem and Ray and you all use RTK, it'll be interesting to see how the different systems work.
Well, I hadn't planned on using any RTK, but you know, I wanted to see what accuracy you could just get with all the additional satellite linkage, right? And even Burp in its day outside, you know, maybe half a dozen satellites, maybe a dozen, but it was just the original satellite constellation, so it didn't have, you know, it wasn't a very advanced GPS, which was one reason why I upgraded it. But you know, again, I've had trouble with the platform. I've had a lot of trouble with the link between the Pi and the CAN bus. I've gone through a couple of different iterations, and now I'm having to design my own board and program it to do what I need to do. So I don't know if I'll even be ready in October at this stage. So
Yeah, yeah, what you mean. Well, if I get forced off of the autopilot, then it's going to be more programming. That'll slow me down. But you know, we've got plenty of time if we just stick to it. You know, it's just that I get distracted by everything. So we'll see.
Yeah. Life gets in the way too many times.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay, who was next? Mike, I guess it was you.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I decided to, I've been fiddling with Arduino on these robots for a few years, but I decided to go back to revisit the elementary, the boot camp of Arduino code. And, I've been telling you, like I told you the other day when we had the competition, I kind of just, when we did the four corner, I found that code on the internet and I tweaked it and stuff, but I really didn't understand what's going on. I'm not talking about the Arduino code, and I'm not talking about the library in the background. I'm talking about the code right in front of your face. So anyway, I'm going through these classes with this man. He's a retired engineer, and I'm kind of noticing pretty much all you guys are engineers, so it might not benefit you at all. But I'd like to give a shout out to this guy.
Okay.
He's
Put a link in the chat too.
I am, and I was wanting to. As a matter of fact, I think I'm fixing to do that right now. Yeah, there's his page. I want to present. I'm not going to show you any videos, but I do want to show you his playlist. So I guess I can do present page, just present entire screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Allow. Yeah. Okay, we're there, right?
Not yet. There you go.
Okay. All right, we're presenting right now, right?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go to his page. Can y'all see that playlist?
It's a little fuzzy.
Well, anyway, y'all see the URL. If you know anybody who's interested.
Wait a minute, there it popped in. It popped in good.
Okay, he's got, like, for instance, just right now he's doing Fusion 360. He's got some Raspberry Pi tutorials. He's got some Python, and I've known this guy for a couple of years. He's done some Jetson stuff. Anyway, he's got all kinds of tutorials, and he's real good. What I'm liking about him is he's not just, I'm going to stop presenting. Y'all got the idea of the guy, right?
Be sure and put the link and be sure and put the link in the chat.
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I already did.
Yeah.
You see it there?
Yep.
Yep, got it.
My point is, he's not just kind of just throwing throwing like like right now I'm doing a potentiometer code, and he's not just doing this to say, like some of them books, just do this and there it is, and you can copy and paste the text and the code and do it. So we're actually going through, like for instance, this morning I'm going through. See, I don't have an engineering degree. I'm just, I got a ninth grade education. So anyway, we went through the math today, and I've been doing. He's like breaking it down and doing the equations for you, and I think that's really cool. So I'm backing up and getting an understanding exactly what's going on, and I'm having fun doing it. So
Well, that's good. You can keep on it. I mean, that
Yeah.
in the end, you'll be much stronger on it. You know what
I
I mean?
know.
It's-
Yeah. So if I don't get too bored, I have a ability. I have a tendency to do that, but right now I'm excited. So I just wanted to shout out to that guy. If you know somebody who wants to go through some of those classes, he actually does some. He actually has one on one of them. One of them robots that we mess with. These car robots. That you bought a kit, and
Yeah.
like these.
Mhm.
And got some stuff on that. So anyway, I just want to give him a shout out. And if you know somebody that's it might be interested, he's really
Yeah.
good. And he's free to cheap. You got a Patreon, like they all do, but it's all, if you want to pay, you pay. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yep. Well, that's cool.
Mm.
Yeah, I did something. You were talking about taking courses. I finally sprung, instead of buying an RTCK GPS, which I probably should have done, I went ahead and got a year subscription to PySearch University.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we'll see how that pans out. And he was going up in his price, and I said, well, okay, it was only $10 a month. Well, we'll see. But it seems like as I got older, my attention span is about that of a gnat. I get on something, and then something else pops by, and it's like, what was I doing? I'm over here. So we'll see.
For me, like I said, I just retired last year, so I spent all the years. I've got for me right now, it's kind of new, and I've got time. Which when I was a working man, I didn't have a lot of time. Y'all understand that.
Well, yeah, but I will say this though, Mike. I hate to tell you this. Now you've got the most discipline that you ever had because you're coming off of work, and you're used to doing things and accomplishing things. When mañana becomes infinite, mañana happens all the time. And it's just, the longer you're retired, the more
worse it gets.
The worse it gets. Anyway.
Oh, well, I'm having fun, so.
Yeah.
Man.
So I have something I want to show you since it's on
Okay.
both topics. So let me click on a window. So, this tutorial looks pretty good. Okay, so speaking of tutorials, notice it has Hello World and all these, so you might take note of that. And how good is this GPS, the Needle Sys M?
I would avoid it. I've got a bunch of them. I mean,
Okay.
I won't say it's bad. It's not a bad GPS, but all for like $5 or $10 more, you can get an 8, and I would go with the 8.
Okay. Well, I was curious because it talks
Now,
about.
if you've already got one of those,
Well,
if you've already got one of those, don't worry about it. Just use
the documentation looked good here, so that's why I was curious about
the difference between an 8 and a 6 from a program is 0.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, whatever he's got there that works, it'll work on an 8.
So yeah, he has a nice picture showing how it wires it
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
and then he has here this code that looks pretty good. So yeah, it looked like a nice overall packaged thing. So
Yeah.
that's why I was curious about it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with, like I say, right now, I think you can get an 8 for less than $10. I mean, a 6 for less than $10, those modules. So if you don't have any modules, it's, and you,
Right.
if you
As I
don't have
said,
any modules, I'd say get an 8.
the main thing was
If
the
you,
documentation here looks
yeah.
so good to me offhand. I'm like, wow. So
It
that's why
doesn't
I'm
matter.
curious.
Because they're
Okay.
not doing anything custom. If you use a U-Bot, you can go in and you can really customize the messages. But if you're just using NEMA messages, that code will work for anything. So
Okay.
it doesn't even have to be a U-Bot GPS.
Good.
But U-Bot 8s are better than 6s. U-Bot
Right.
9s are better than 8s, and the ones that Scott and Ray and Kareem have, which are the RTK, I think they're still called Series 9s. Or are they called Series 10s or 9s?
Well, there is a 10 out now, but mine, I think Kareem has the 9s. I have the, I think it's the 8 NP2,
Okay.
which is, that's supposed to do GPS RTK, but only to about 2 centimeters. The 9s will do it to like 1 centimeter,
Yeah.
but the 9s are like an extra $100 over the 8s for the module cost.
Well, there's
Yeah.
different, like mine's a ZED F9P, and then you've got the Neos like you were talking about, Doug.
Yeah.
I don't know what the differences are, but so I don't think it's just whether it's 8, 9. I mean that's the major distinction, I guess. But I think within that, there's different features within that family.
Right. I think the
Or that-
9, the difference between the 8 and the 9, I believe, is the number of constellations you can hook up to.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not
That's
quite
the big
right.
one. Yeah.
I don't think that's quite right. So the numbers, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, those are and 10 now. Those are really
Series.
generations of the underlying architecture.
Okay.
They're not the feature sets. So
Oh, okay.
within each of those generations, they have a bunch of different separate products that will target specific things like timing or RTK or the ones that have the IMUs embedded with them. For each generation, they have multiple products targeting different applications.
Yeah, that's true.
And the thing to look out for, the thing that gives you the best resiliency, and this has not got to do with accuracy, it's whether or not you're looking at dual channel. So both L1 and L2 frequency bands.
Yeah, the dual
that
band.
broadens the number of signals you get, not just from within a particular constellation, or not just across constellations, but even within a particular constellation.
Okay.
So that's where you start getting 20 satellites available in the view that it can lock on, and that will improve resiliency, but it won't improve. And so, like the problem that you were talking about, losing lock and it starts wandering and to really big errors. That is very unlikely to happen then, but it's not going to get you into that 2 centimeter range.
Oh, no, no.
That you're going to have RTK and
RTK for that, yeah.
Yeah. I was just,
And the 9s were the first time they had a really good RTK solution. I don't know about the 10s.
You don't like the 8s? Like I have the Neo M8P-2, and the -2 is supposed to well, I guess it indicated that you could do like base and rover with it.
Sure.
And
yeah,
that one's supposed to be to 2 centimeters. And I thought the 9s were like 1.
No, they're still 2 centimeters. Or
Oh, they are?
Well, the whole thing is that's an artificial benchmark, right? It all depends on the distance to your base station signal, whether the air gods are happy or not. It's like you can never guarantee a particular resolution, but you're going to get I was able to get pretty repeatable results. I couldn't say whether it was 2 centimeters or 1 centimeter because I couldn't accurately measure enough to know. But if you just track the plots, all you can do is really relative accuracy, because then if you're moving the robot, you can mark where it actually went, and then you can compare that to the wandering of the GPS fixes, and you can get a sense. But it's really hard to say, yeah, I'm 100% sure that I'm within 2 centimeters of the actual GPS location.
So Kareem, how are you going to, are you guys, if you have multiple people, can they all share the same base station? Can you guys
Yes.
set up a base station and just all use it?
Absolutely. So the answer is yes. In that the data coming from a single well-fixed base station can be shared with any number of receivers. The question is how you get it there, right? And
What's the
so
radio
then you're
link?
talking about, if you're talking about a specific kind of radio link or whatever, you've got to sort of you've got to make that data available. The way I've gone was basically over internet sharing. So, but that requires that I get an actual broadband connection established in order to get that speed. But
So you've been using Wi-Fi basically. Yeah.
I've been using Wi-Fi. Yeah. I've been getting it off of the RTK to go network.
Now, is there anything up near Steve's house that allow you to do it that way?
There
as I
was
know,
one
no.
there. I actually used it when we were up there. I figured out after the competition that I had misplaced a target in across the lake because it was so bright that I couldn't really see my laptop screen very well. And so, as I was configuring the course, I ended up plopping one across the lake and lost track of it. And so that's why it turned towards the water. But I was using it. If you remember, I actually ran over the cone because I didn't really have great control over stopping that robot. While it was rolling downhill. So it is. I was actually using it up at his location. Now, I believe that particular transmitter has disappeared since then, but I haven't checked in quite a while. But I did see it disappear sort of in the weeks afterwards. So this is a voluntary network, and you've got to sort of decide to put up a receiver and then share that signal.
Scott was talking about using XP, I believe he said. That's
so
pretty.
One of those would be pretty short distance.
Yeah, would that be able to handle 300 yards, around? I thought XP was pretty short.
I don't have any real.
Yeah,
Laura
would
would
either,
handle
Doug.
it.
Is that XP, from what I understand, although I've never used it, is mostly line of sight, 100 feet, something in that neighborhood. More like a Bluetooth spec than really a high power radio.
Yeah.
But Laura would be able to handle it.
That's what I'm using or trying to use now. I break up the messages in 64 byte packages. And
it's the total payload is kind of tight on Laura. The number of updates, so that would be your concern there.
Yep.
It would have the range for that location.
Is it something that if you sweet talk Steve, he set up a base station and just ran it off his home wireless? I guess his probably didn't go out across the course. I don't know how. Probably didn't have external, antenna out in the outside. But I was wondering if he could do that. You just put a tripod out there with the station, leave it for a couple of days. would that give you a base station?
Yeah, you only need it out for a couple hours to get a real good fix on it, and or good enough for this purpose. So somebody could go ahead and set up in advance, and just we could even just set up a Wi-Fi broadcast.
Yeah, another router
It doesn't
outside.
necessarily have to be his, but
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what the reach of his Wi-Fi
I don't know either.
was.
Yeah. He probably doesn't cover all of his property. You know what I mean?
You probably lose it near the water.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Probably right when you need it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. Learn something about.
Yeah, I know the
Okay.
LoRa radios. They'll for for a low number of bytes. Like, I think they said that in the SparkFun website. I think it was like the correction data is about 500 bytes per second, so that's pretty slow. And I think you can, make it, there's all these selections, for bandwidth, for the number of hops you do.
Yeah, you have to be aggressive in pulling it down to just the correction frames.
Right.
And nothing else. So configuration would be pretty important.
Yep. Anyway, with the two next to each other, I got it into RTK float. It didn't go to, fixed. And but I didn't let the, I only gave the base station I think it was 5 minutes, or it's 300 seconds and 2 meters. So, that just takes about a little, about 5 minutes to do. And so it didn't sit there for hours and really get down to,
Yeah, you need a better fix for your
on the
your
base.
station. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna try to get good accuracy.
Yep. You're
It's gonna be
fading away.
So, Green, it's going to be interesting. Green, are you going to pursue the same base you used last time? You're going a different way, or are you going to use
probably a different base?
Okay.
Almost certainly a different base. I should actually use those robots that I got at the auction. I just haven't had the time, but those are like built for handling that kind of terrain just fine.
Okay. Yeah, they got big, pretty tready rubber wheels,
like
right?
8-inch inflatable.
Yeah. So
They're made for smashing into things too, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're made for smashing into sonar sensors.
Hey, Kareem, I drew a print up of the sonar sensor control board.
Yeah.
The connector and signals. I mean, if you're interested in it, I can send it to you.
That'd be great. Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah. So Scott, you're making.
But they don't have a suspension. Those platforms.
Well, and the sonar arrays were really, really slow because you have to select each individual, a single sonar, and then you ping it and you have to wait for the echo, and then you can select the next sonar. So depending on the range you actually want to get out of it, it's, you're talking up to 50, 100 milliseconds per sonar just to get a range reading out of it. And then you move to the next one. So it's, I didn't really see that it was practical in a real world scenario, because you had, 8 different sonars. So by the time you cycle through them, it was more than half a second. And
pretty good latency for traveling at speed.
Yeah. and the fact that you can only do one at a time, because they actually multiplex the output through a single pin on that connector. So basically, it's like an ABC selection, and then you have an initialization pin, and then you have an echo pin. So you can only look at one at a time.
So Scott, could you select, so let's say you had 8 out there and you decided you only wanted to use 4 of them, or maybe
Yeah,
even
you could
3.
cycle between, each end, but you could select whatever sonar you wanted to select. You wouldn't have to cycle through all of them now.
Okay, so you could favor the front one
Yeah.
all the time. If you.
Well, you could, the front and the back are completely independent. So you could scan the front and the back at the same time.
No, but I mean, you got an array of 8, right?
Yeah.
Or an array of 4. What is it in the front?
And it's an array of 8, both front and back.
Okay. So what I'm saying is you could be pinging the center front one 90% of the time, and then just go to the edges every once in a while.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Or
but,
under special cases. Like if you had an obstacle,
David,
then you could start looking for it.
Yeah. I remember the comment David made about, scanning and doing that. It's like anywhere you're looking, there's somewhere you're not looking, right? So if you're only looking here 90% of the time, you're not looking the rest of the place, the other 10% of the time. So,
yeah, but you're also know what direction you're traveling, so you could favor whatever's in front of you if that's what you're using it mostly as a bumper system.
Yeah.
Well, but what I'm saying, once you got something, let's say you did say, okay, I got an obstacle in front of me, I got to make some sort of maneuver here, then you could go ahead and start. A half a second wouldn't be that big a deal. Do you know what I mean? You could stop and then say, okay, let me figure out what's going on, then go someplace. But most of the time, you'd just be using 1 or 2 in the front.
Well, the thing that I found with sonars, and I'm sure that those are probably as bad as any of them, because I use sonars on burp quite a bit. I think it was 5 of them. So I had a center one, and I kind of said, okay, the center one is the master, because if you're going forward, you only really need a, field of vision of, 20, 30, 40 degrees at the most. So yeah, you kind of use the center one, and then it's like, okay, if there's something close enough in the center one, then I'll turn based on what the other 2 were saying, But one thing I found with sonar is you get this kind of saturation field because you have such a cone with sound. So the angle between them, you can get multiple hits, and it's hard to figure out exactly where the obstacle is. It's somewhere in this range here, but if I keep turning, it still seems to trigger this sensor or that sensor. So if you had multiple objects, it was really hard to distinguish between any of them. Like if you were trying to go through a doorway or something like that. And I actually I kind of scaled back because I started on burp. I started with, sonar sensors with the largest field of view, and it was just kind of noisy. So I started stepping down, and I found that the very lowest field ones were more accurate of knowing where the obstacle actually was and whether or not there's a gap between multiple obstacles.
Are you using them?
I went to, the LiDAR camera on Belch here. And, I'm hoping, because the field of vision of each one of those pixels is very much more defined and a much smaller cone than sonar is ever going to be. And plus, there's a lot more information to look at, which is another obstacle all in itself. But
so are you going to camera then instead of ultrasonic on your newest one?
No, well, it's a time of flight camera is what they call it. So it's I think this one is 60 pixels by 120 or something. So the field of vision is also pretty much fixed. So you can take out individual areas, kind of like what you were saying, Doug, where I can focus on a particular area. And then if I have something in this area, then I can expand my search and say, okay, exactly what it is that, I'm fixing to run into. But, again, I haven't got the platform actually moving yet, so that I could test these things out. Because my motor drives are all run off the CAN bus, and I'm having lost messages and latency issues because I've been using this USB to CAN interface that I found on Amazon for like $80, and I probably with all the frustration and time I've spent messing with it, I would give someone $80 to take it from me, but that's why so now I thought, well, I'll just add another CPU and custom build my own interface, because I have a whole interface board. I was showing everybody the USB to 4 UART FTDI chip that I was using, because there's never, when you're talking about AHRS and a GPS radio and this LiDAR radio or sensor, all that's UART. So it makes it really clean. You just have a single USB connection, and then boom, you have 4 UARTs. But routing the power. And the other thing with this time of flight camera is that once you tell it, okay, start taking readings, the only way to make it stop is to turn the power off. So that was part of my problem with the hardware, is I had to add, a switch on there where I could actually turn the thing off. Because when I would leave it back here, even though the code wasn't running, the radio was or the sensor was still just going at it. So
Didn't have an interrupt pin, is what you're telling me.
well, it's just UART messages, but even if you shut down the COM port and don't even look at the messages,
it's still filling up.
Sensor, it just keeps going, because that was the last, and there is no turn off command either, which I thought was kind of odd. So I just put a high side switch on this board I'm working on, and so I'll be able to disconnect power, because it's pretty power hungry anyway. So you really want to turn it off when you're not using it.
So can you put a link to what camera you're using?
Well, right now I've got one of the Oak D lights, and we were talking about that. I wanted to train it to actually look for a cone. And then when y'all announced the contest in August, I said, well, I won't have time to mess with that. So then I had a picture
not in August
that I've got working on it. But again, I haven't really tried it. And the Pixie 2s are supposed to be better in the light, with contrast and I've been anxious to test that too, but I got to get the platform running first.
I thought August was moved to October.
Yeah, it's October. It's not August.
Well, but by then it was too late, and I probably won't. I won't be there in October anyway. So.
Oh man.
So we got, there's an opportunity for someone else to come in first this year.
Oh. Well, okay. Let's see. Well, 2 of our guys that have all made perfect scores, you're not going to be there. And David, I'm sure, is not going to have his ready again, because he tore it all up, and I don't think he's been making a lot of progress in getting it back together. So we'll see. All right, it is an opportunity for somebody else to step up. Okay, well, that's cool.
You could do like Kareem's son did, put down your bricked robot and make 3rd place,
Yeah, well. Okay, who's next? Chris, you going to say anything here tonight? How about you, Raj? I think we got.
Yeah, I started to tear apart my
yeah, it looks stripped down.
crawler. Yes,
Yeah.
I started playing around with it, so I have replaced the circuits in it. I basically got new motor drivers for it, and then I started playing around with. I don't have anything to demo today, but I was hoping I could have something. But yeah, I've been playing around with ESP8266.
Yeah.
So I thought instead of trying to connect some joystick, I thought I'll just use USB 8266 and host a web server on it, which will start controlling the rover. And this is for the Robo Columbus. Just starting there. So I thought I'll put this instead of Arduino to control that. And at the same time, I have my phone as a remote control with a web browser that I can use to control the robot. Then I'll probably put an Raspberry Pi or a Nano to talk to the camera, do some computer vision stuff to recognize the cones, get there, and probably a GPS. I bought some GPS, don't remember which one it is, probably U-Blocks. So that's my update. Wanted to show something, but I got stuck. So I'm not very good at the full stack web development. So HTML, JavaScript, CSS, I'm trying some examples, trying to merge them together. The libraries have conflicts. So I'm figuring things out and settling with one library instead of trying to bring in multiple libraries from different pieces of code. So, yep, that's
doesn't your base have the wheels that turn both front and back?
Yes. So this has a servo in the front and a servo in the back for the steering. So it's an all four-wheel steering system.
Do you know? Do you by any chance know where you bought it? I mean, do you know?
Oh yeah, this is I bought this from Amazon.
Can you put the link in?
It's called the Ridge Rock from
Dan.
Danchi. Okay, can you see that?
Ridge Rock by who? DANCHEE.
I can put a link.
Okay.
Right now I'm connected on a tablet because my computer doesn't have a camera right now. Switched from a laptop to a computer that's much more powerful. But I don't have a camera on this yet.
Okay. Cool.
That's why I can't connect from there. But I'll put a link.
Yeah, because I've always wanted one that did that. You know, that twisted.
Right.
How
it's
much
not very expensive. It's I think I got it during Thanksgiving before Thanksgiving for about $110 or $120.
Okay.
$139 on Amazon right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
$139 right now on Amazon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a crawler, so it has good torque. I got inspired from Carl, so he was showing me his expensive crawler, and I was actual crawler, I think. And then I was like, let me see what I can get on Amazon, and then I found this, which seems to have pretty good ratings and reviews. So I thought I'll buy this and play around with it. So yeah, you'll have to throw away the motor driver in it, which has the motor driver plus radio control on it. You'll have to throw away this and get to what is that? ESCs that can drive DC motors.
I saw that there's apparently upgrades too. What are those?
I didn't get any upgrades actually, but I haven't taken a look at it in a while now.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a hobby grade truck, one of the cheapest. So you can change shock absorbs, you can change the wheels and rods, servos, the motors, everything is upgradable. There are multiple versions. I think this one is the cheapest one, Ridge Rock, and there's, I think, Red Cat. Or is it from the same brand? Probably. Yeah, a couple of variations, but this is one of the cheapest that I could find. It doesn't go very fast, but it has good torque at low speeds because it's designed to go up on the rocks. It's a rock crawler. So I think it's a good platform for robotics, which doesn't involve high-speed robotics. So I think it's good, and it's got good ground clearance for on the lawn. So there's no problem with the grass and all that stuff. And the tires are good for outdoor. I played around with this before I ripped it apart. It can go up upon pretty much any kind of terrain.
Anybody ever drive? There was a Honda and a Chevy Silverado that were actually 4-wheel steer. Anybody ever test drive those? It's really.
I drove. It was not completely rotating the back wheels, but I drove a Mercedes that has slight tilt. So you don't realize. At least I didn't realize that it was doing it. Just the turning radius was shorter.
Yeah.
Much shorter than what you would normally expect. So
Right,
that was a
right.
cool thing.
Could you turn like in like 2 lanes, 20 feet or so?
I tested this in India, so I'm not sure. But my brother-in-law bought this new Mercedes, and he was showing off that the rear wheels also has steering, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I didn't notice when I was driving it, but it's cool.
Very, very,
because
tight turns.
right. It
Yeah,
wasn't much.
apparently.
It was maybe about 15 degrees rotation, not like the front wheel, which goes up to about 45.
Yep.
Or 50 degrees.
I know the Hondas would sense the speed, and it would do different things at different speed. Like below a certain threshold, it would make the 2 wheels like front and rear turn, so it would make a tight circle. But at higher speeds, they would be like parallel. So in other words, if you were turning right, both the front and the back, so you almost like with Mechana wheels, you wouldn't actually turn, you just kind of almost look like you were sliding, but you weren't really sliding. But because
I
both
saw the
wheels
new Humvee electric ad, and that's what they were showing. They were showing that all 4 wheels rotate, and you're going on a highway, and then you just slide to the next lane or something.
right,
like that.
yeah, it doesn't look like it actually turns, it just kind of shifts, I guess. Yeah, it's very, very weird. I imagine the police don't like it. You chasing somebody and they come down a road and they can do a quick turn, and the cop car has to do a 3-point turn to get around. Kind of like a clown car.
Yeah.
So is that from experience running from the cops, Ray?
Well, no. But I thought, oh my God, they couldn't keep up. Wouldn't be it didn't have to be a high-speed chase. It'd just be in a small area.
Oh man, I came back and everyone's silent.
We thought you came back to say something.
Well, the only thing I have is not really robot related. So if you want to accept it, it uses an endoscope. So I don't know if you're interested. Are we done
sure.
with the robot-y stuff?
The fate of the Mercedes. Let us give it to us.
Okay, so it's still in Pittsburgh, basically. That's where I'm heading soon here, and
so you're saying it's been probed, huh?
A little visit. Yeah. Well, so I haven't, I don't get much time up there, so I can't really start anything that I can't finish in just a short time because there's so many things going on up there. So I do these little steps. And the last time I was up there, I got the endoscope, and I did okay. So I started a YouTube channel, and I started to peer inside of the engine. And you're welcome to watch or visit the and subscribe if you want. But it can. So basically, this is a lot of work coming my way. So this is this is a lot of work. So basically, I'll show this. Is it presenting? It's presenting. There we go. Why isn't it? Oh, I have to play. Okay. So this is a 1957 Mercedes 190 SL, and it hasn't left this spot in the garage for 58 years, basically. So it hasn't turned. It hasn't done anything. So I wanted to see what's going on. So in we go.
Ooh boy.
Yeah. So
That's some pretty good rest.
yeah, look at what is going on here.
Well, after the first revolution, there'll be less, but you know.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. So the question that I put in this, I don't think anyone's commented yet, but privately they have. And the question is it even worth trying to hand crank, or am I likely to cause more damage than learn anything?
Yeah, it might be. Well, did you say it was seized?
Well, I have no idea. I haven't tried to crank it yet.
Oh.
Because I don't want to go do something that's likely to cause more trouble.
Yeah.
But when I see, now you're just going to have to go to the link yourself, because whatever I'm doing to this browser, it's not keeping up very well. But we looked in there. Well, how can it be so bad? And then looked in cylinder number 2. Okay, the video is much. This is what you find when I'm totally unprepared. The YouTube video is much smoother than this non-presentation. Yeah. Huh. Return of the roast. Well, anyhow, so there's some endoscope video in there, and it gives you a pretty good idea of why, when this finally gets down to Dallas, it's going to have to come down pretty far apart. Yeah, this is just not going to work, is it? All right. Huh. Okay, they did have to pull a new internet cable to my house the other day. Maybe that's part of the issue. Maybe if I pause my...
Can't be anything to do with all of those windows you have open.
Oh no! Yeah, what's the worst that could happen with 500 windows? Oh yeah, it gives it away, doesn't it? All right. Well, so much for my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Well, it's really bad when you see a small nest in one of the cylinders that.
Well, there was thankfully no nest in the engine, but there was in the air cleaner.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Did that have an oil bath type air cleaner, or was it like a paper element? Or
it was horsehair. It still is horsehair. I haven't. Oh, look at this. Now it's working. Yeah, it's a horsehair air cleaner, and what you would do is take it out every so often, and you would bathe it in gasoline and put a couple drops of oil in it, and that's how you managed your oil cleaner.
Yeah, they used to. They had something. Well, wasn't made out of hair, but they'd have a screen a fine screen that you would coat with oil, and basically stuff would just stick to it. And apparently, the Model Ts didn't even have an air filter on the intake, and they would end up with all kinds of junk in the crankcase that made its way down through the top of the engine.
So now it's working.
That actually doesn't look too bad.
The valve looks okay. Yeah. But we get down a little closer and.
Ooh, yeah, that's a little rusty.
I called it light rust on the wall. I talked to a knowledgeable mechanic, and he's talking about pits. And with pits like that, apparently the oil will get past the rings and cause smoke in the engine, and no good will come from that.
Yeah, you'll have like blow by.
Yeah. And then you can't see them, but the rings down there, this rust. So most likely we think the steel rings are welded to the pistons by rust. So, and then carbon, I don't know how bad the carbon deposits really look, but.
That doesn't look too bad.
Yeah. Okay.
What are you trying to do with this car, Carl?
I want to get it back on. I want to restore it to some level. So it's graded a level 5. They have like 1 to 6. 1 is super pristine, better than new, and 6 is, there's a few parts here and there. So this seems to be a solid 5. So I want to get it up to a level 4, as soon as I can, and drive it around for a while, assuming the cosmetics and the safety are okay. And then maybe after a few years, put a bunch of money into it and get it to a level 2 or 3. So after a few years, like take it down, get it sandblasted and all kinds of rework and make it look really, really nice. And there's a spark plug from that cylinder.
Yeah, it probably, with the miles that it had on it and for the length of time it was sitting, you got, I think 30 thousandths over is pretty common. So you could have each, cylinder bored out and put new pistons and rings in it. And,
yeah.
That might get rid of the pitting.
Yeah.
Usually they do it at, maybe 10 thousandths at a shot because, you don't want to change it that much.
Yeah. Well, there's some places that specialize in this model of car, and so I have some of those in mind to queue up and take it to. So I started to dribble some Marvel mystery oil in the cylinders, just with hopes of loosening it up. But I'm convinced that from what the guy said that knows what he's talking about, when you see what you see here with the rust on the cylinder walls and the pitting, what's also going on is that there's going to be issues down in the crankshaft and all the connecting rods and everything in the bearings. So the basic premise was that no good can come from even trying to hand crank it, because all you're going to do is, if anything, you loosen up the rust and send it around and just lubricate your engine with rusty grit. So and then the same thing's going on with the camshaft. So edge is better than chrome right now. But the endoscope, it's a wireless endoscope, and I can put the link in the thing. It's battery powered, so you can use it on iOS or iPhone, whatever, or Amazon, whatever you want, Android. And it records pretty well, and it's got built-in lights, and you can switch the intensity on the lights. So I had early on hoped that this thing would be close enough that I could just do some light cleaning on the engines and stuff and get through it. But it seems like the first order of business is going to be to pull the engine out.
Hey, Carl, can you put that endoscope in?
Yeah, I was pulling it up on the other screen here.
Okay.
So how bad price does it sell for?
The endoscope is $42 delivered.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, it looks like this. And what I found is that with the wireless connection, it wants to be pretty close to the camera. So I had it a few feet away on the ground, and I had the camera up on the tripod where I could watch the screen. And maybe my body was in the way or something, but it was having dropouts. So then I took it and I kind of wrapped the body around the tripod shaft right near the camera and near the iPhone, and then I didn't have any dropouts at all. But it has this particular one comes with these add-ons, so it's got a magnet. You can kind of hang it on stuff, except the cable's so thick and stiff. And it's got a hook. So I guess, oh, look at that. They have you retrieving rings. Huh. And I guess the magnet is for retrieving things like tiny keys. Okay. And then the mirror is interesting because it does give you a right angle view, but it also has enough, field of view beyond that. You get this really weird oval shaped view to the side, and then you see forward. So it's kind of, I haven't gotten quite comfortable with it yet. And then there's like splash from the ring lights around the thing. So this is a mixed blessing, I think that is. But it's pretty easy to use. It charges. It's got more than enough battery for taking quite a lot of video.
Yeah, the tip is a lot smaller than my earwax clean tool, so you could use it for a cheap colonoscopy.
Yeah.
Self-guided.
Self-guided tour. Yeah, 0.2 inches it shows, doesn't it?
It's pretty small.
And I found one. Oops, what is this doing? Oh, sorry. It's Kermit. Go away. So the one thing I found that was interesting is that trying to keep up when you're steering this thing around in places you can't see. So what I wound up doing was getting some gaffer's tape, and I wrapped it around, and I made a little flat like fin where up was, and that way you could hold it with the fin, and you always could aim up, and that helped a lot, because otherwise, when this thing is turning at funny angles, you don't know which way you're aiming, unless you know which way up is. So maybe it helps with robots. Maybe it has nothing to do with robots, but that's all I've been doing last little while.
Yeah, I would guess that they're, you can't do anything unless you take the engine apart anyway. So you're going to have to do some, piston tapping and.
Oh, it's going to come out and go to the experts.
Cam twisting and
carburetors coming out. It's coming apart.
Yep.
But more later. And if you want to follow it, I'll put things on the YouTube channel sooner or later.
Yeah, I can't remember the company that redid my diesel engine. It was a Perkins diesel, a 3-cylinder for my tractor. They did a great job. I mean, there's some weird things. You actually have to fit the wrist pins to the connecting rods. You actually have to ream them out to a certain size. And that was a sleeved engine, so they didn't have to bore the block. They just push out the old sleeves and put in new ones. But knock on wood, it's still working today. So.
Well, did we have any gold stars aside from Doug and his presentation on Saturday? That was definitely gold star worthy. Not yet.
I could show the same video I showed before, but I don't think that'll give me a gold star, right?
Okay.
Maybe not everybody saw it, so maybe somebody give me a gold star. I don't know.
Okay. Any other topics for tonight? Lollygagging. All righty. Hey, Doug, is there a chance you could host next Tuesday night? Because I'll still be on travel. Doug P, microphone muted. Okay, one mute.
Is he talking or thinking?
I'm not sure.
In my case,
I had to. I was in the middle of saving the chats to make sure I had them. Okay, yeah, Carl, I can do it.
Thank you.
I'll have to put myself a note there because the last time I did it, I was like 10 minutes late. So
I'll see if I can pull my notes from wherever to try, if in case he doesn't. But
okay, sounds good.
Much appreciated.
I won't guarantee it. So
Yeah.
due to that fact that tonight the computer would default back to its normal mode. So
Yeah. We ought to give ourselves a goal every once in a while. And our goal for next week should be to try to get a gold star on a Robo Columbus robot.
There you go.
We might have to change the, even if we don't, get a gold star, we get a black star, which means shows progress. Okay. We had 2 stars, so it didn't have to be gold. We can get the black one, like Scott can get wheels on his, that would be, he'd be getting a gold star. I mean, a black star, Raj can get his, well, Roger can go for a gold star. He wanted to give a gold star this time, so we'll see. So let's do that.
I think Pat was going to be grabbing cans by next week, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I think I'm not sure when he's dropping that. When are you dropping it, Pat?
I'm dropping this guy.
Yeah, when?
He's going away.
Now.
Yeah, that's it. I wanted to get some parts mounted. This guy maybe next week.
Okay. All right. Good. That sounds like because October will be here before we know it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It was.
And if we've got people who can't run in October, we probably also ought to have. Let's not wait a year. We'll do one. Who knows? Maybe in January or something like that. To give everybody another shot at it, because or at least like last time, I felt a little bad because I know I could have gotten at least 1 point. They couldn't get it off the line. It just sat there. So
the challenge would be is go through snow. I don't think we'll ever get snow here, but
well, I'm just saying,
it'll be more ice.
Yeah, well, Pat's got a little more. Pat has a little more flexibility because he's entering remotely, so he can do it the day before it snows. What was that? What's that? July 27th.
I'm waiting right now for mid-September because the leaves change colors anytime after that.
Okay.
And I don't want a bunch of orange leaves in the camera.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Otherwise, I'm looking for 1,000 or 1 acre indoor, couple acre indoor arena.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be a first. Okay. Hey, I gotta go. I'll see you guys.
All righty. You all have a great
Bye-bye.
night.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.